heavens, there's that thumb I haven't seen for a few months. Welcome back, Jake.
Thank you, Dave.
Jake Ellacott, we're on a pod full of ex-Saints +1, and somebody over there with no thumbs is Lee Wood.
Mr. Tavener, how are you, sir?
Very good, thank you, Lee. And nice to see you've got the shirt on from a 1998-99 season. So is Jake, of course, but he's rich. He could afford to buy it on eBay. Because we are looking today back at the FA Trophy run from that season, the best ever run we've ever had. And did it finish at Wembley? We'll find out later. And in the second half of this programme, when we talk about the semi-finals, we have a special guest. Peter Risley is coming on. Right, before that, we're going to go through it round by round. But before we start, question for you, Jake. What's the significance of this to the season we're talking about?
Is it from the tree at Clarence Park?
It is.
Yeah.
This was the first season we didn't have a tree there. It got cut down in August 1998. So everybody wants
to be fair though, Taz, that season we did have our fair share of dead wood just floating around the park, mate. So
glad you said that, Lee.
Hey.
Oh God.
We've got a megastar coming on later. We don't want that sort of thing. Right. Our manager for this season was Gary Hill. We only had him for 14, 15 months. What did you make of him, Lee?
I liked him. He had that sort of Barra Boy-esque sort of persona, didn't he? You know, nothing was going to faze him. He was definitely in charge. You knew that regardless. I think their sort of eyebrows were raised when he brought half the Redbridge side with him. But what he did, he bought the good half, didn't he? You know, so yeah, it was a very, very smooth transition. No one really knew a great deal about him, really, if you're honest about it. But we got on very, very well. He was always approachable and he was always honest. He's what I would class as a proper old school non-league manager, which was fantastic.
You're right about nobody really knowing him. Certainly not in St Albans, because he was an Essex boy. We got him from Redbridge Swifts, and before that, he was with a club, a Sunday club, wasn't it? Priory Sports or someone like that. And his jump up to us, it was quite a leap. And he did a terrific job, in no two ways about it, in 15 months. And of course, that paved the way for his career afterwards. All right, it went downhill. It went to Dagenham, but there you go. Right, this FA Trophy run. We started off, I think was it the second round? Yes, in the second round, because we had such a good record. We had a bye in the first round. Away to Walthamstow club, Leyton Pennant. They were, I think, a division below us. They weren't on a good run. They lost 3 out of 4, I think, with 12 games unbeaten. We were flying. And the game was, as expected, 3-0 win, Lee.
Yeah, it was pretty standard things, wasn't it, really? I mean, it was... Didn't they have, what was the fella's name in goal? Cheese, right? He was in goal.
John Cheese, right?
Yeah.
You got that from James Brewer. I think he emailed you.
Yeah, but I told him, and but I've subsequently forgot myself. So yeah, standard, really standard. They didn't offer a great deal from memory. I mean, to be honest with you, my memory of the game was a little hazy. But yeah, I mean, it was just the solid win that we needed to kick off the fantastic run.
But they had another former Saint as well. Did you remember Joel Swain?
Yes, vaguely. But yeah, I mean,
he had thick, black, bushy hair. And I wish I could get my little boxers trees to go like that in the garden, and I'd have a lovely hedge out there. So, you know, anyway, that's my memory of him. Right, Leyton Pennant, 3-0. Bloke called Clark scored a couple of them. And Rob Hayworth scored the other one, which was set up by Peter Risley, nicely enough.
There we go.
So, as we say, we'll be coming to him later. So after that, we then had a 2-month wait, because the next round we were away to Hastings Town, a twice postponed game. Did you make it down there?
We went down there the first day. I went down there with Ian Rogers and Mark White and a load of other people down there. And we stayed in Hastings, a hotel right on the beachfront. And it was just absolute carnage. And there were a few, I would say there were a good 20 or 30 City fans who went down there the same night as well. And obviously we woke up in the morning and the sea was just absolute choppy as anything. So Jolly Rogers, bearing in mind, he's not as reserved back then as he is now. I'm going to go in there. I said, Jolly, listen, mate, you weigh like, I don't know, 4 stone 4, whatever it is. You know, you would be like just a piece of driftwood, just sort of floating out. So we were trying to ring around everywhere, trying to find a game that we could go and watch. Bearing in mind, this was before the heady days of the interweb. We phoned up various different clubs, and every game was off apart from one, Lewes against Hornchurch. So what seemed to happen is every Saints fan who was down there for the day just descended upon the dripping pan, and we decided to sort of just basically back the home side. And the Lewes fans just didn't know what hit them. I mean, the Lewes officials didn't know what hit them. Lewes, the town itself, didn't know what hit them. Basically, there was like 30 or 40 City fans just turning up, flags and colours and all sorts of things going on. And we made the best of a very, very bad situation. So it was a good day out, and I don't think anyone's going to forget that.
We're talking to people you mentioned there. I don't think we know what hit us when they turn up at our games. Right, it was eventually played on Monday, the 25th of January. Again, they were out of form. We were in form, and we coasted another 3-0 win on a bitterly cold night, as I recall. Paul Turner's a bloke called Steve Clark scored again, and Dominic Gentle. And it was a comfortable win. We've got some notes going. No, just they lost 3 out of 4. They were on a bad run. We did what we had to do.
I know that we gave a debut from your brilliant report on the Saints statistics site, Dave, that we gave a debut to the 46-year-old keeper on the evening.
Mervyn Cordston. We didn't just give him his St Albans City debut that night, Jake. We gave him his St Albans City career. It was one game. He was only 10 days away from his 47th birthday. So you've still got time, Jake.
Oh, still time for all of us, isn't there?
Thank you. 2 of you, it may be. Right. Oh, that's his first interjection. That's good. After Hastings, it was interesting actually in the Hastings programme, they complained like mags about the draw, which would have taken them up to north of Manchester, away to Ashton United. Of course, we were quite happy to go there. We'd rather go there than not go there. I remember we went on the supporters coach. There were a couple of supporters coach, and we're going across the Pennines, and you go through a town, I'm sure it's called Hollingsworth, which was ironic because we had 3 supporters, David Hollingsworth and his mum and dad going to the game as well. We're not killing time here, are we? No. Anyway, what a day this one was, Lee.
So we went up on the Friday. We stayed with Matt Taylor, who's obviously a diehard City fan, at his student digs in Leeds. Absolutely annihilated the night before. Revolution, revolving dance floor, £2 to get in, £2 for a bottle of Hooch or Foster's. You then replace that for free. So at 3:30 in the morning, we've got the son of the landlord of the Robin Hood turning up at Matt's dorm in a red posing pouch, just looking for places to go. But bearing in mind, we've got to get up in like 4 hours' time to get across the Pennines to go to Ashton. Everyone turned up at the ground absolutely hungover, but you can see from their reaction that they were well up for it. And if I'm honest, we got away with one there. It was dramatic and it was brilliant and it was fantastic, but Ashton were really up for it, and they were a good side at the time. They were, I don't know whether they were informed, but you know, they were highly fancied themselves, and we had to real dig in deep there.
Yeah, it finished up 2-2. We were somewhat fortunate, as Lee suggested there. We went ahead, they went ahead with an own goal, courtesy of Ashley Vickers. And things he would do to get his name on this programme. Dominic Gentle got us level. They then went 2-1 up with Gary Williams, not the son of Keith Williams, the old T-bar bloke at St Albans. And then, was it 5 minutes into added time, we got the equaliser. Rob Howe pounced on an error by the goalkeeper, McKenna. John McKenna, who, funny enough, was an ex-Dagenham goalkeeper, who they would have had next had he held on. But it was dramatic, wasn't it?
It was fantastic, because what happened is, afterwards, I mean, they thought they'd won it. Let's face it. I think, to be fair, we thought that as well. Then when Robbie scored, obviously, pandemonium, limbs everywhere. But what was interesting is, in the bar afterwards, their directors came in And they're like, bearing in mind that we played our home games on a Monday night back then, they come in and they went, "Oh, bloody hell, London on a bloody Monday night." And one of them kicked the table, and the table went over, sandwiches everywhere. And then when Robbie came in from getting changed, he came into the bar. Yeah, it was probably a handful of us. We're going, "Robbie, Robbie," we're like giving it the old like Messiah thing. "Get up, you stupid southern bastards. Get up off the floor." Like this. And so they took it well, to be fair. They took it well. But, you know, we basically subsidised their entire ground rent for the sort of next 10 years by beer sales. So that was fun. Yeah. So on we go to the replay, Mr. Tavener.
Well, at one point there, did Nocky catch your sandwiches before they hit the floor?
He was already on the floor, mate. He had his mouth open. It was like one of those sort of big traps. So it was good.
Right, the replay, Monday night, as you say. A snowy Monday night. The game, I think, finished, was it about 11:15 or something in the end? The second half alone lasted 75 minutes while they had a bloke, unfortunately, with head injury, taken off to hospital. Was that in the days we had a hospital, or did he have to go to Hemel? Something like that. What a night.
Imagine having a head injury, then having to go to Hemel.
You're better off where he was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, lordy, lordy.
So there was... Right. Go on.
Clarkey scored both goals, put us into 2-0 lead. His second goal was in the 90th minute, so he looked to be coasting, but then they got one back, but it was so late in the day. But even then, I think the injury actually may have come after that, so we still have a delay. And they were kicking the ball out of ground, so they knew we only had one orange ball, but they couldn't time it for when there was a train going along the bedpan line. So we retrieved the ball each time, and referee Graham Monk, he was getting that all game from them, saying, "Come on, you can't play this," but he stuck to it, and we got through by the skin of our, but we deserved it on that night. But overall, we got through by the skin of our teeth.
There was actually some concern about whether the game was going to get finished in the end, because obviously we had half time. We were clearing the lines for the snow. Even Lee Harding was out in his sheepskin jacket trying to shovel the snow, and with various volunteers. And what happened was there's a massive mound of snow behind the Hatfield Road goal. When Clarkey scored one of his goals, he celebrated by diving headfirst into this big mound of snow, but he winded himself really, really badly. So when he got up, he looked quite shaken, and we were thought, "Oh Christ, here we go. Our star striker gets injured by just diving headfirst into snow." I mean, that would be just so City, wouldn't it, really? But as you say, Taz, it got a bit twitchy towards the end, and everyone was going, you know, what's going on here? Is the game going to get finished? But we did play well, and again, they were up for it. And full credit to Ashton, they played their part in what were two fantastic games of football, certainly.
Yeah, it was 6 minutes into injury time. They got their goal, and I think it was called close. The guy actually went to hospital 20 seconds after the kickoff from the goal. So he didn't have much time to celebrate it, but just an incredible night. The attendance is so far, but nothing special. You won't remember the Amateur Cup, Lee, and Jake certainly won't, but that always had more statue than the FA trophy. And the gates for the trophy so far: Pennant 301, Hastings 380, away to Ashton on a Saturday 443, Monday night for the replay, cold night, Coronation Street was probably on, 390. So we're not getting big gates as yet. Next round, 5th round, furthest we've ever gone, away to Dagenham and Redbridge. At last, against the big, we still haven't had a home tie. This was tough. This was undoubtedly tough. Did you fancy our chances?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And no, but to be fair, they were by all intents and purposes a conference team. They had Gothard in goal, who was a stalwart back there. They had Cobb. They had Ship. That partnership between them, banging in goals left, right, and centre. No one gave us an absolute hell's chance of coming out there with a result. But I tell you what was really fantastic about this performance. It was probably the most complete team performance in the entire run, simply because we had players like Dominic Gentle, who was, for me, one of the unsung heroes of the entire campaign. Paul Turner, who got some real harsh abuse that season. You know, he was almost the scapegoat for bad performances. Not that we had many, to be fair. John Pollard, Mark Keane, you know, Jimmy Carstairs, all these sort of fringe players or just sort of utility players. Everyone dug in, and it was a fantastic result. No one gave us a cat's hell chance of advancing, but it was a solid performance that was worthy of the win.
You mentioned Dominic Gentle there. He scored in each of the first 3 rounds for us. Not both games against Ashton, just the first one up there. If going to Dagenham wasn't already tough enough, we thought we'd do it without our goalkeeper, Paul Newell, sent off after an hour, by which time we're already leading through a Kevin Mudd goal. Not a Kevin Mudd goal, headed. What did he score with? Can you remember?
Tell me.
A volley. A Kevin Mudd volley.
Surely not.
No, that's it. Most people thought it was going to end up in Romford. Ends up in the back of net. Incredible. Anyway, yeah. He's quite chuffed with that one. We then go 2-0 up on 68 against Gentle. But before then, on 61 minutes, we say Newell was sent off. But what a substitute we had to come on, Lee.
The Cats.
Andy Lomas. Indeed.
A once former foe of ours, wasn't he? You know, and at Chesham and stuff. So shrewd. But this is the quality that Gary Hill brings to the side. He can draw on his experience and get these sort of players, but not only get them into the side, but get them performing and making telling contributions as well. And he basically went on to be one of our players of the entire run, because he featured quite heavily in the trophy going forward. And fair play to him, because he was aging as well, Tabs. I mean, I'm sure you will sort of tell me he was like 105 or whatever he was, but made some fantastic saves and a vital player for our entire run. Yeah.
Well, he once apparently had the best record of any goalkeeper for saving penalties in non-league football. And whether that got to Paul Cobble, I don't know, but the blonde bombshell, he put it way over the bar. That was a great let off for us, because that would have been 1-0. So, say Dominic Gentle 6 minutes later, 2-0, we're in a good position. But they did get one back on 88 minutes through Neil Journey. Wasn't he an old Tottenham youth player, I think? So it was a bit tight at the end, but what a result. A crowd there of over 1,200 odds. And Andy Lomas was he was coming up for 33. That was still a kid.
I mean, he was a tough paper round, wasn't it? Because he looked like 83 at the time. But the thing is, what I would say, Tabs, as well, is that what made the result even more special was the fact that Dagenham don't lose at home. Dagenham don't lose at home. Their home record was absolutely flawless. And as a result, we went up there. Okay, we had to sort of dig in. And it was nervy, and it's a typical sort of cup/trophy tie. But we were fantastic value for that win. Absolutely.
I will say as well that, again, on the Saints statistics website, there's a brilliant photo after the game of the players all celebrating together, and it's a brilliant lineup of, you know, a who's who of the Saints from the 90s. Some really brilliant pictures and photos, and in that kit that Dave's wearing as well. And it looks, I can just imagine
shocking kit.
But I can just imagine winning away at Dagenham. I can just imagine how that felt, you know, as a supporter, just thinking, wow. By that
to be
point,
fair, mate, their fans took it well.
Not surprisingly, Dagenham had actually lost 4 home league games by then, and sadly they lost to some side called Stevenage at home in the FA Cup as well.
Is that Borough, Town, or which one?
Village.
That's it.
Let me ask you this then, Tabs. Did you give us a chance going into the game?
I don't any game.
That's all, folks. Thanks for joining us.
That's not true, actually. But if you go into a game thinking about it logically like that, if you go in thinking, oh, we're going to lose every game, then anything other than a defeat, you're absolutely delighted. If you go there expecting to win and it's a draw or a scramble, a 1-0 win, you're disappointed.
It's a very simplistic way of sort of looking at it, Tabs. Yeah, but given the fact that, their strike force was quite potent at the time, and anyway, but we won. So On we go.
Rumours at the time, because Ted Hardy was going to retire at the end of the season, Dagenham manager.
Again.
Yeah, he was, of course, manager of Dagenham in 1970 when they beat us in the semi-final of the Amateur Cup. And he was retiring at the end of the season, and Hilly was strongly rumoured to be going there. He kept denying it. Nick Harling put it in the Daily Telegraph on the following Monday. That's what's going to happen. And Nick was right. I meant to say, right. We're under a new secretary, because after the Hastings games, Steve Eames replaced Janice Hutchings, who went off to work for the Hearts F.A. and later became Janice Comerford. Married the old referee. Anything else you want to know about her life? No? Okay.
No.
Are you stalking this person? Is that what you know so much?
1999. Right. Our 6th round, quarter-final. We finally got a home tie. And what a big one it was. Boston United. If we'd ridden our luck at Dagenham, if we'd ridden our luck against Ashton, well, we rode it a 3rd time at home to Boston. They looked really good down the park. We did well. We created plenty of chances, but they looked a good side, and they can feel a bit miffed that they didn't get at least a draw.
Agreed. But I thought the one factor that we hadn't seen in previous games up until that point, because we hadn't had a home game, was the home crowd at Clarence Park. They turned out in that season in numbers. It was a decent sized crowd. And the one thing I would say is that the whole entire city was buzzing. Absolutely. I mean, there was just that belief now starting to sort of creep into people's conversations in the town centre. You know, the pubs were sort of buying into it. The club did a reasonably okay effort of sort of promoting the game as well. But as you say, Bazza in goal, they had some well-established players for that level. And to be honest with you, yes, we did sneak the win, but you know, gritted, determined, dogged result. And I don't remember too much about it because it was just the euphoria of being in the trophy quarters, and but the atmosphere was electric that day, and I think that did help spur on some of the players.
They brought a phenomenal support with them. The gate was given at 2.7, so it's probably about 8,500. But they had, I don't know, probably 1,500, whatever it was. I did have the figure somewhere, but it's disappeared. They had great support, but our support wasn't too bad either. We went into a game without Steve Clark. He was suspended, and that is a big blow. But we brought in Junior McDougall. That was a shrewd move by Gary Hill. He only played in the trophy games, but what a difference he made.
Yeah, just that pace that we were lacking elsewhere up front. And to be honest with you, he held the ball up reasonably well as well, from what I can remember. You know, he was quite strong. He was athletic, always played on like the last shoulder. And he was a perfect foil for either Rob Howarth or Dominic Gentle. And if you think about it as well, you know, it enabled Justin Gentle and Matt Jones to come in and cut inside, because it was pointless delivering those telling balls into the box without Clarkey there. So it actually gave us a little bit more freedom to play some football on the ground, in and around the box, which is fantastic for us. But that, again, is the Hilly way, isn't it? He had this ability to bring in players who he knew were going to hit the ground running and contribute, you know, from the absolute off. But the one thing I will say is, I think, for me, they probably didn't get the credit they deserve. But I think our defenders were actually okay. I mean, from what I remember, because it was backs against the wall for large periods of play. And our defenders, looking back at the highlights from what I've seen, really, and that does sort of back it up as well.
We're talking of defenders, with no Clarkey, the goals were scored by Ashley Vickers and Tom Meredith. But Tom was actually playing in midfield, and which was a surprise. Gary wanted a bit more bite in there, so he took Tom out of the defence and put him in midfield, and he popped up with that header. And you've probably seen the photo of him scoring the header. He's just hanging up in the air. You could walk a bus underneath him. Or push a bus, probably better.
Nice.
Incredible. Players you want to step up when you need them, they did it.
Yeah, and obviously, if you think about it, we only recently installed that that sort of corrugated sheeting around the ground. And the Boston fans took the defeat well by absolutely annihilating the bottom half of the away end. That's why if you look at now at the Hatfield Road end, they've got breeze blocks, because behind that the Boston fans have just kicked the crap out of the new fencing, because they took it so well. But I spoke to a few of their fans, and they expected to win. They thought they were going to win. You know, exactly how we thought we were going to sort of Dagenham and lose. They thought they were just about confidence coming to Clarence Park and winning, because they had a good established non-league side there, Tabs. And we were more than a match. At times it was dicey, but I think, you know, we dug in, and that is another trait of an excellent side. We can thrash teams when we want, but we can dig in when we need to as well.
First time we've seen Paul Bastock down there. You mentioned him earlier. He was in goal, obviously, for Boston United there. A legend with them, with over 650 games for them. An incredible number. And then he comes to another club, another 314 there. I mean, you've got 1,000 games for just 2 clubs. Incredible. And what a motivator. But that day, it didn't work for him. Funny enough, we didn't know a lot about him on the day, did we?
No. I have to say, it fills me with joy to know that we got one over Steve Evans as well. He's not the most popular character in football. And I know at the time, you know, he was less known for his controversy, but it was just around the corner. And yeah, it's good to know that we got one over him. Yeah, makes me very happy. And it just looks like a brilliant day. Like you said, Dave, you've put again in your report on Saints statistics, it looks like it was a lot more on the day that were in attendance, especially Saints fans. And it just reminds me of those FA Cup games that we've had in the recent years. But yeah, I can imagine that as a supporter, when we win that, I mean, you just, your thoughts must be already at Wembley pretty much.
I'm glad you mentioned Steve Evans there, Jake, because I was writing the programme then, and I was interviewing the managers during the week, the opposition managers, and you had great people like Ernie Howe at Basingstoke, Jeff Chappell. If you couldn't get hold of them, they rang you back the next morning by about 7:30 in the morning, so you could talk to them before you go off to work and get your article. And Steve Evans, he was good. He did the interview, but even there, you could tell there was a touch of aggression, and wasn't nasty the way he was talking, but it's a steely determination about him, and I think he's somewhat renowned for that.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, isn't it?
that echoed through the playing side as well, though, Tabs. You know, their players expected to win. You know, that obviously filtered down from the manager throughout the side. And you've only got to look at the temperament that Bazza has anyway. You know, that sort of passive aggressiveness that he sort of brings to the team. But I guess that only gets you so far. You actually need a little bit of teamwork ethic and skill along the way as well. And I think the players, the one thing to sort of contrast the two managers, Gary Hill had his ruthless side. He had his aggressive side, but he was very clever. You know, and I do see similarities between him and Ian Allinson in that mentality and the know-how about how to win games when it isn't always going our way, and to get the best out of the players he has to hand.
And the berating of match officials.
That as well.
Right, it's time we had a special guest, isn't it?